It is a great honor today to stand here to present the Raeder-Taslitz Award to Professor Angela Amani Davis. So according to Plato, the true measure of a person is what he or she does with their power. And power can be defined in many different ways. Today we heard about many professional accomplishments. And oftentimes we define power by financial success or academic achievements. But I would argue that the greatest power that we have is the power to influence other people's lives. And so today when we think about Professor Raeder and Professor Taslitz, who this award is named after, I would remind people of their importance because they had such a tremendous impact on influencing people on a very human level and the power to influence others. So personally for me, Professor, we call him Taz, was my law professor at Howard University and later became a professional mentor. And he inspired people. He inspired people to believe that we could actually change the system. And many people know him for his numerous publications, and anybody knows he was writing law review articles like no other. He has many publications, but I would argue that his greatest contribution was the many lives that he touched. He encouraged us to believe that prosecutors and defenders, we have to be kind to one another. We have to respect one another, and we have to ultimately believe that we can work together to make the system and globally the world a better place. So there is no other person that I could think of who is more fitting to be honored with this award in the spirit and legacy of Professor Taslitz than Angela Davis. So Angela Davis, I met her when I was a young attorney working for the ABA, a commission that she served on. And she just casually pulled me aside in the hallway at one of the meetings, and she asked me, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do in the future? And it was nothing short of amazing to me because she took a personal interest in someone who had no power to give anything back to her, but she took a personal interest in reaching out to me and asking about my future inspirations. And over the years, regardless of how busy she is teaching classes and writing books and publishing articles, she's never too busy to stop and help her students and the numerous of attorneys who have gone on to enter the criminal justice field. She's dedicated her entire life to social justice, and that says so much about her. She served as the director of the Public Defender Service, worked for many years on a policy level with the Rainbow Coalition, and then has spent the last few decades of her life in academia. But regardless of how many publications she authors and her numerous writings on race and prosecutorial discretion, I'm honored to stand here today to recognize the tremendous amount of love and support that you have poured into other people. So when I think about this award, I think about the impact that we have as individuals to influence other people's lives. So I would like for everyone in this room to stand and join me today in recognizing Professor Angela Davis.
April. So, April, you know, you're making me mess up my makeup now. Thanks so much to the ABA, and especially to you, April, for nominating me for this award, taking the time to do that. I appreciate you so much. You surprised me, and you're making me do something I didn't think I would be doing now, which is get teary, but thank you. And I want to thank all the people who wrote letters of support for the award as well. I appreciate you so much, and I want to just spend my few minutes here thanking people because, you know, everything I've ever accomplished in my life is because somebody else helped me. So I just want to start by thanking my dean, who's taking a picture of me right now. My dean, Camille Nelson, thank you so much for being here. Taking time from your way too busy schedule to actually be here and stay. I appreciate you so much, and I appreciate the fact that you made it possible to have so many members of the AU community be here today. Thank you all back here at Table 8, all of you there. Sunita Patel, Liz Bowles, Jenny Roberts, my former students, Amber Bennett, Preston Smith, Makia Weaver, my colleague and soon-to-be Congressman, Jamie Raskin, thank you for being here. Anita Sinha, I think you were stepping out. Who else is there that oh, Tony, you moved. Tony Verona, my associate dean, thank you so much for my AU family. I also want to just thank the Public Defender Service for the District of Columbia, where I started my career. My friend Jim Barry, who I started out and helped me so much, who was at PDS and is now the Deputy Director of CSO, to seeing you here means so much. And to thank all the lawyers at the Public Defender Service, where I spent a decade of my life doing the work I consider to be the most important work of my life. There is no work more important than people who represent people charged with crimes. And I want to thank that community for the work you did and you continue to do every day. And I want to incorporate by reference the comments of Jim Feldman about how important it is that we keep working to get the 2.2 million people out of prison, and thank you for your work. I also want to thank my family who is here today, my cousins, Debbie Owens and Deidre Owens, who support me in everything that I do. My niece, Kelly, who's filming me apparently right now, who was a lawyer at the Public Defender Service and a way better lawyer than I was, and is currently running the Criminal Justice Clinic at Howard Law School. I'm so proud of you, Kelly. And my dear husband, Howard, who has supported me in everything that I've done. Thank you for being here. I also want to thank, there's so many people, but I don't have time because we're way past time, so I'm just going to quickly say there are a lot of people who helped me. I want to point out one or two. One, Jamie Raskin, who I would not be at the Washington College of Law as a law professor if it were not for you, and you know what I mean by that. And I also want to thank Steve Salzberg, who's not here. Steve I wouldn't be a law professor if it weren't for Steve. He gave me my first law professor job, hiring me in the trial advocacy program at GW, and he got me my first full-time job, which was as a visitor at GW, and he has been my mentor ever since then. He's just made so many opportunities possible for me that I can't name, from co-authoring to getting me involved with the ABA, and he's still mentoring me, and I'm sorry he's not here to hear this, but I want to thank him for the influence he's had in my life. And then finally, I just want to say there's no award that means more to me than the Raeder-Taslitz Award. It's very personal for me for the reasons that April mentioned. I didn't know Myrna Raeder, but I know of her, and she was a fierce champion of justice, a great advocate, a great scholar, a great teacher, and I'm honored to get an award with her name. But I did know Taz very well, and I love him dearly. Taz was a dear friend of mine, a colleague of mine. He was an extraordinary person. April said so many of the things I want to say. He was, of course, a great scholar. He was the most prolific scholar that I know. Jamie Raskin, you know, maybe tied, but Taz wrote, they both are great scholars, but Taz wrote about everything in such a deep and profound way, but in a way that was accessible to everyone in such important issues. He was one of the greatest law professors in the country and was recognized for that in a book called What the Best Law Teachers Do. He was one of 17 lawyers in the whole country that were recognized in that book, and he deserved it. But the main thing about Taz that I will hold on to and love forever was that he was a good person. He was the kindest person that I think I've ever met. I don't think I ever heard Taz say a cross word about anyone, including people who deserve to have cross words said about them. I remember a faculty member who was just particularly mean and crotchety to everybody, because Taz was on our faculty for the last couple of years of his life. And this guy was so mean and crotchety, and Taz was saying, oh, he just reminds me of my uncle so-and-so. And then he'd give that big guttural laugh that those of you who knew Taz know that laugh that he had. I mean, he was just such a good person. I've never seen anybody who was so brilliant, yet so humble at the same time. Those two qualities don't usually go together. But with Taz, they did. I mean, he was just so special in that way. He made everybody around him feel important. He made everybody around him feel as if they were as smart as he was, but you all know we weren't. But he made you feel that way just because he was such a good and kind person. I just feel really blessed to have had him in my life. I'm so glad Patty's son, his widow, is here today to hear him being honored again, because Taz was just that special kind of person. I'm blessed to have had him in my life, to have had him as a member of our faculty for the short time that he was, because you know, he made such an impact in that very, very short time. So thank you all so much again. I'm honored, I'm humbled, and I'm grateful. Thank you.